I think that I see something deeper, more infinite, more eternal than the ocean in the expression of the eyes of a little baby when it wakes in the morning and coos or laughs because it sees the sun shining on its cradle. Vincent van Gogh. This isn't an in-depth review. I'm gonna link great videos in the description that already cover that. Instead, I want to juxtapose Squid Game Season 3, which I found disappointing, and Children of Men, which I think is absolutely brilliant, with its core theme, an infant. Both works are deeply political, exploring capitalism and human depravity. But what struck me the most is how they both use a baby to push their themes. Squid Game shows how greed strips away humanity, with people willing to kill a mother and her child for survival. Children of Men, on the other hand, treats new life as a symbol of hope, showing how far people will go to protect innocence in a dying world. I will say this now though, Squid Game did it much worse than Children of Men. To me, the baby was the biggest problem of the season. I won't dwell much on this though because I know this is kind of the general consensus when it comes to reviews for Squid Game. But aside from the lack of realism of how babies act and survive, like, come on, you're telling me that a newborn baby didn't cry, piss, vomit, or shit once, and that a baby is supposed to survive in a place like that? But yeah, aside from that, the moment the baby became a player, it became way too obvious that the baby would be the winner. Compared to Children of Men, the reason Children of Men is not predictable is because even if we knew the baby was going to survive, the end goal was still very unclear. There were still so many plot points and paths the baby could have gone. Like, was it going to be taken to be used as a political tool? Was it going to be taken by the military? Was it going to be taken to the human project, which is what the main characters wanted? There are still so many unanswered questions, even if we knew it was going to survive. Going back to Squid Game, we all know the goal is to win, and when you have a baby as a player, there's only so few paths that it can lead to, making the ending and all episodes building up to that ending just plain bland and predictable. But okay, enough said. Let's wipe the slate clean. Let's talk about how the presence of a baby affects the characters. But before that, obligatory call to action to tell you to like and subscribe for more videos like these. Anyway, going back. For the characters, this just creates more problems for Squid Game. That old white-haired dude was already a greedy villain from the start, we all knew that. But when he and his accomplices are just straight up willing to sacrifice a baby for an extra 100 million won, it just shows the lack of nuance and depth for their characters. I thought the entire point of Squid Game was to show the grayness of morality and to show how humans try to fight back against harsh conditions. I just found it appalling that everyone was so quick to antagonize a literal infant. Imagine if they actually addressed the moral ambiguity of the situation and actually thought about their choices. Even from our protagonists, wouldn't it also have been cool if they were hesitant or at least skeptical to take care of a baby, knowing it could jeopardize their own safety? I think it's not that hard to present these questions, but they give so much depth to the characters, it gives so much nuance, and it leaves so much room for interpretation and discourse. Writing the baby this way just paints morality as black and white, when in fact, there is so much more depth to be discovered, and that it is on a gray spectrum. But hey look, I'm all for pure evil characters. I think when done right, a character that was built to be hated on can really make the story good and interesting. But the problem is that Squid Game's horror relies on nuance, watching ordinary people slowly break under pressure, not from cartoonishly evil people. Even if the writers wanted the villains to kill the baby, it's just not shocking since their characters are already seen doing completely evil stuff anyway, so there's no shock factor or nuance. In the final game, the audience kind of goes, "Oh great, I wonder what they will do. They're hungry for money and they're greedy. I wonder what they'll do to the baby. Oh no." So why does a baby work for the characters of Children of Men? When you use the narrative tool of an infant in dire situations, it has to serve as a motive for characters. This is why you see actual motivation behind the characters. It drives development. Before the baby was born, the characters in Children of Men already had different motives with what to do with the mother, with the baby, with each other. After the baby was born, it gave characters something to believe in, So we see motives being fulfilled and we see characters changing. Squid Game could have done something similar. If the show had taken time to show how a child symbolized something larger, like innocence, potential, or even resistance, it definitely could have added depth. Instead, the baby is sort of just a plot device used for shock. Or, you can look at it this way. Even after player 222 gave birth to the baby, none of the motivations of the characters changed. Gihon was still Gihon. Old Evil Dude was still Old Evil Dude. I guess the only argument you can make was player 333, but even his arc was just weird and confusing, like he was doing 180-degree turns all the time. This leads me to my final point, how it impacts the message you want to tell the audience. I think Squid Game clearly criticizes capitalism, its effects on a person's morality, and how it affects democracies as well. Introducing the baby to the show could have definitely been a good thing, but because of all the reasons stated previously in this video, the baby just made everything too preachy for me. It's like the show is screaming, look how evil the system is, look how far people will go. And you don't want this, because it creates a very narrow and problematic view of the issue or message at hand. It doesn't allow new interpretations or discourse. We're sort of forced to sit with the conclusions the show made for us. It needs to do what Children of Men does. Give the audience 2 plus 2, not 4. Because by doing that, you allow the audience to actually engage. You allow the audience to actually sit for a reason and watch your TV show for a reason, to develop their own interpretations for the piece of art that they are consuming. At the end of the day, both Squid Game and Children of Men use a baby to say something about the state of humanity. But only one of them does it well, with care, with subtlety, and emotional depth. Children of Men earns its hope. It builds a world where life is fragile. And so when new life arrives, it means something. It means something for the characters. It means something for the whole plot. It means something for the world that was already built from the start. It moves characters, reshapes motives, and invites the audience to think. It allows the audience to actually engage. Squid Game Season 3, on the other hand, skips the groundwork. It gives us a baby, but not a reason to care. Or for the characters, at least. And when your story deals with something as universal and emotionally charged and important as new life, that care can make all the difference. That care can make or break your TV show. Thank you for watching.